Welcome back, drawing buddies. This week we're gonna draw Stupendous Man of Calvin and Hobbes, from pencils to inks to colors. So if that sounds like a good way to spend 15 minutes or so, then let's draw. Calvin, he started being published in 1985. Calvin and Hobbes by Bill Watterson, probably the greatest comic strip of all time. I'll die on that hill if you don't agree with me, because I don't think it's peanuts. The fun thing about Calvin and Hobbes was every once in a while he would take on an alter ego that would be part of the situation he's in, or trying to solve part of the problem he's having. As he had Spaceman Spiff. We already did a Spaceman Spiff video. He had Tracer Bullet. I think that was only one series of strips. He was a hard-boiled 1940s detective, you know, the door with the glass pane with his name etched in it. And he actually carried a gun and had a cigarette in his mouth, which is something that would never happen in today's comic strip world. But, you know, in the 80s and the 90s, that was perfectly acceptable. And it was pretty awesome. So whether Stupendous Man here does good or bad, I'm probably definitely eventually going to draw Tracer Bullet, because he's probably my favorite way to draw Calvin, because I get to go all Sin City on him. And another fun thing about Tracer Bullet, even though I should be talking about Stupendous Man, is a while ago I was reading a interview with Frank Miller, the guy who did Batman The Dark Knight Returns and Daredevil Born Again, and obviously the regular Daredevil run, which basically made Daredevil cool. And, you know, he also did Sin City. And, you know, the Sin City movies of Robert Rodriguez and the comics are very stark black and white. They're kind of a 1940s detective noir kind of story thing. And the reporter who was interviewing him asked him if, you know, he had any influences, or if there's any cartoons that he was reading at the time, or comics. And his answer was that he was reading Calvin and Hobbes, and he loved to read Calvin and Hobbes. And then I was reading the Tracer Bullet stories, and I'm like, oh wow, this is very Sin City. The art style and just the stanza and the way it's written. And then I looked it up, and Tracer Bullet came out like a year or 2 years before Sin City did. So I always wondered, I never really had a chance to ask Frank Miller, even though I did actually meet him a couple times, got a couple signatures from him when he started signing again back in the mid-2000s. And, but yeah, I wonder if he read the Tracer Bullet strips and that was any influence on his Sin City work, because, you know, I bet there's a little something there, but that could just be my crazy conspiracy brain running, even though I don't even really believe in conspiracy theories. So I guess we'll find out. Well, we'll probably never find out. I don't think that's a question that'll ever be answered. Especially since when I actually met Frank Miller, I didn't really meet him. I just got in line and got him to sign a couple comic books, a Daredevil 168 and 158. And then I actually found another ticket for signatures, just kind of sitting there in the open. And I asked the guy who was standing next to me, he's like, is that yours? He's like, nope. I said, well, I guess it's mine now. So I got a couple other books signed. So I actually got 4 books signed when I only should have got 2 books signed. But it kind of worked out nicely. But Frank Miller was kind of recovering from illness or whatever when he was doing those signings. So he wasn't really 100% to ask questions. But he was fun. He seemed like a really cool guy. So maybe if I got to talk to him again, I'd actually be able to get a couple questions in, because he seems he's a lot better now. So I should have read some Calvin and Hobbes strips before doing this video, but I'm more behind on this video than I've ever been on a video, and I didn't really have time to sit down and read. And there's no movie I could watch for Calvin and Hobbes while I'm drawing, so I kind of out of luck on that one. But as luck goes, though, a friend of mine randomly sent me a message saying, hey, I got you a present. I'm like, why did you get me a present? And like, cause I saw an ad for this on Marketplace or something brand new or whatever on Facebook, and it was so cheap I had to buy it for you. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. And it turns out that cool cheap thing they had to buy for me was the 3-volume Calvin and Hobbes set that has all of the Calvin and Hobbes comic strips from the first one to the last one. It's a hardcover book. I don't know if this is the one that has the gold lining around the strips because I didn't open it yet. But yeah, it has every strip in order, one per page, in a hardcover, 3-book hardcover volume. And, oh, hold on, the pencils are done. It is time to ink Calvin. I forgot how fast this video goes by when they're only 15 minutes long. Because everything went fairly quick on Calvin, and I even kind of cheated on the background, even though I did draw this background. I'll tell you about that when we get there. But yeah, they bought me the frickin' Calvin and Hobbes books. And I always talk myself out of buying them. And so I'm kind of glad that my friend got those for me. And someday I'm just going to take a whole day. I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to read as many as I can. Because it's been a long time since I just sat down and read a bunch of comics or comic strips, and I think I'm overdue, and Calvin and Hobbes would be a great way to do it. But yeah, the pencils went really quick on Calvin. The inks go really quick on Calvin. The colors take a while for some reason, which surprised me because they're not that complicated. And even though I pre-drew the buildings, because I actually drew them for the Daredevil video, which was supposed to come out this week, but I did something else with Daredevil. And when I had him jumping, I was like, all right, what should I do for buildings here? I was going to just draw some quick buildings, kind of similar to the ones that I did on the Chibi Absolute Batman. But then I'm like, I wonder how these would look if I threw them in the background. So I threw them in the background and I added perspective to them. I'm like, this works perfect. But they weren't finished. I still had to make the windows glow, and I still had to add like side perspective to the buildings once I added perspective to them. So it wasn't like I just quick copy paste, cool, buildings are done. I actually had to do some things to make them work, but you'll see that coming up a little bit in the video. When I was drawing Calvin, I had a weird maybe realization, and I'm not sure if I like it or not, but this went together really quick. And when I was drawing the Daredevil, I was struggling with it. And I'm not putting the Daredevil up this week because I didn't think I liked it. And then when I finished the Calvin and I uploaded the Calvin video parts to piece together, and I said, you know what, and I was going to start redrawing Daredevil yesterday, even though I should have been working on this video. But anyway, so I go back and I open up the Daredevil video. I'm like, let's just take another look at it. And I'm like, I actually really like this Daredevil drawing. I don't know what the heck I was thinking before. So my initial feeling of it was, this is terrible, I can't release this video, to, what was I thinking? This video is actually, this drawing is actually pretty darn good. So, I don't know, man. I can't really trust myself with these drawings these days. It's kind of weird. But the realization was when I was drawing this and it was coming together so darn fast, like, am I a better comic strip type cartoonist than I am a comic book anime type cartoonist? Because I notice when I draw the comics, I spend way too much time overthinking it, and then I'm like, this is terrible. This is why I don't make comic books and everything. And then I look at the drawings later, I'm like, that was kind of cool. But something like this, it just comes together super quick. I had no misgivings about it, and I was like, darn. And same thing with when I draw the anime ones. Like, I'll try to draw them like a straight up comic book style, and then I'm like, this is not great. And then I redraw parts of it to make it more anime, like the Mirko video, how half the video she has like a standard comic head that I decided I couldn't stand. And then I redrew her with an anime style head, and the head came together in minutes. And then I just pasted it on the body because the body was fine. And I'm like, So maybe, I don't know. I either gotta sit down and stop overthinking the actual comic style drawings. So I don't know. I got to think about this. And also, weirdly, my views yesterday on my shorts, I honestly think they're the worst I ever had, like in the hundreds for the whole night. But somehow I got 3 new followers. So I was like, maybe less views equals more followers these days. I have no idea. I haven't checked my views for tonight, even though it's 10 o'clock at night while I'm doing this. So I guess we'll find out when I'm finished, because once I'm done talking to myself, basically, and doing this voiceover, I have to replay it so I can make the talking monkey. Oh, hold on. The inks are done. It is now time to color Spaceman Spiff. So yeah, I got to replay this audio through a bunch of things to make the blue monkey talk, my little avatar, and then I gotta put the monkey in the video, and I also forgot to put Calvin and Hobbes on the title card, so I gotta do that. And then I gotta export out the video. But the good thing is, uploading the video will be really quick, because all I gotta do is use all the stuff from the Spaceman Spiff video and change the title, and that should be all I have to do as far as uploading the video to YouTube. So it will be up on Friday at 4 o'clock if you're watching this, like all the other ones. It's just, you know, I had to work at night all week, and I just didn't have as much time as normal to get the video done, so I'm kind of beating it under the wire here today. So if it seems a little off or something, I apologize. I'm just getting this done, and I'm actually loving the process of being under the wire, because I'm just going with the flow and getting it done and not worrying too much about things, and it's kind of freeing. I mean, I'm a third of the way through the video, and I haven't really talked much about Calvin and Hobbes. I talked about Frank Miller. I mean, I could talk about Bill Watterson for days. He was an interesting guy, even though he could have done things for the cartooning industry that he didn't. That you can't really blame him, because not everybody wants to change the world. Some people just want to do their thing and be happy with doing their thing. And Bill Watterson was one of those guys. He just wanted to do the best comic strip he could do, and he just wanted to be left alone. He didn't want to sell, you know, he didn't want to sell dolls. He didn't want to make cartoons. He just wanted to make the best comic strip he could. And, you know, it shows in his work. You can't deny what came out of the man. So, you know, he didn't want to be an activist and change the comic strip world. Then, you know, you didn't have to. You know, there's no rule book saying you have to. Just do what you love and love what you do, I guess, would be the way to go. That's my little hippie speech for the night. See, when Bill Watterson was making comic strips, when he first started, and probably still is, the Syndicate owned everything. Basically, you drew your comic strip, you submitted it to a syndicate. I believe it was called Universal Syndicate was the big one that he worked for. And they did everything else. They sold it to the papers, they sold your merchandise rights, and they had the right to sell your merchandise rights. They pretty much owned you while you were under contract with them. You didn't really have a say. But Bill Watterson made it very clear that all he wanted was the strip to be published, and the only merchandise he wanted were the books of the strips collected, and I believe he did some calendars, and that's it. No stickers, no toys, no movies, no cartoons, just Calvin and Hobbes, the comic strip, and that is it. But the thing is, he got so popular that they had to listen to him. Because he's like, if you do, I'm just not going to make any more Calvin and Hobbes, and that's the end of that for you guys. And he also got to the point where he could dictate to the newspapers the terms of how they printed Calvin and Hobbes. Because newspapers, they would cut up your comic strip vertically, horizontally, put a panel here, a panel there, screw up the whole reading order. They would make it microscopic sometimes so you could barely read it. And he got to the point where he could dictate the size they were printed at, if they could be cut up and moved, if they could not be cut up and moved. If he had a Sunday strip that took up a whole page, he basically said, this takes up a whole page, and if you don't publish it that way, you don't get to publish Calvin and Hobbes anymore. And the cool thing about him, what would have been a cool thing about him having that much control over the comic strips, is that he could have leveraged that to get more rights for other artists, like the Beatles. When they were recording their albums, they got sick of having to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning, having an allotted amount of time to record, and then getting kicked out. And if they didn't finish, then, you know, they didn't finish, and they had to wait till whenever the recording company or the studio said they could record again. But they got so popular, they're just like, no, we want to come in at midnight, we want to work till whenever, and screw you guys, that's what we're going to do. And since they were able to do that, other bands who were selling millions of records said, hey, if the Beatles could do that, why can't we do that? And there was no good answer for that, so the studios had to change the system to work with the artists. And Bill Watterson could have done a similar thing for the cartooning world. They taught us all this stuff when I was going to school for art back in the day. But but he chose not to, because he did the strip for 10 years. In 1995, he did the last one, and then he walked away, and I believe he lives in the desert or something, maybe Arizona, and he does paintings. And that's his life, and he's happy, and he's doing his thing. And I'm out of time on this video. I was going to talk more about Bill Watterson, but Stupendous Man is done. So thank you all for stopping by this week and watching. Comment, subscribe, like, all that other fun stuff. Have yourselves a great week and go out and draw something. And I'll see you next week, and we will have Daredevil ready.